All right, good morning. So today is day 20. And today I'm talking about committed to the process, right? Making a commitment to your process of healing, right? So I looked up the word commitment and it says a pledge or obligation as to follow a certain course of action. Then it says dedicating yourself to something. And then it says oath, deal, a pact, affirmation, covenant, or a decision. And so what the word that stuck out to me was the word decision. So a commitment is a decision. So in other words, we're making a decision for our process to complete it. We're making the decision to complete our process of healing. Because when you look at a process, there's stages, there's steps, there's a length of time that comes with a process, right? So I wrote down that my commitment to my healing process has caused me to do self-inventory on a daily basis, right? On a daily basis, I'm doing self-inventory. I'm checking what's in me, making a list and just checking what's in me, checking those things that are needed, that are not needed, doing an inventory of those things. And I ask myself questions throughout the day. I ask myself, am I committed to my process or am I giving up? Have I made the decision to just really stick with this? Or am I just saying, you know what, I can't do this anymore, I am done, right? And then I said, do I believe it's going to cause growth and development in my life? Or do I feel like I'm wasting my time? With this process, me completing this process, is it going to change my life? Is it going to cause me to grow and develop? Or am I just doing it? Am I just wasting precious time and energy, right? So another question is, what are the positives in my process? What am I seeing in my process? Am I progressing? You know what I mean? Has my mindset changed? Has my demeanor changed? Has my words changed? What are the positives in this process? Am I determined to see it all the way through? What motivates me? What causes me to be determined? What motivates me to say I am going to complete this process, right? What steps have I taken to strengthen my mind, my heart in the wait? What steps have I taken? Have I gotten any more knowledge concerning how to go through? You know what I mean? Am I praying? Am I, just getting people around me to help me to process this, right? And so with those questions, I was like, okay, God, I ask myself these questions each day to help myself to say that, okay, I'm going through this process. This is what this process is doing for me. This is what I see coming out of this process in myself. These are the things that I see in myself, while going through this process. And I also wrote down what I am noticing is that my mind repeats different moments a lot. And I find myself rehearsing conversations that I want to have and saying those words that I want to get out, right? So I find myself, things coming up and I'm thinking back to different things that have happened. And some things I forgot all about, but I find it coming back to me, and I'm having conversations with myself about what happened, that situation that happened. And I'm speaking the things that I didn't get to say at that moment. Or I'm speaking the thoughts that I was thinking, or things that have been just suppressed in me. They're starting to come up, and I'm starting to, I guess, recognize those things, right? So I question myself a lot about if I have released some wounds. That's the first thing that came to me. I was like, wow, I haven't thought about that situation in years. That happened 10 years ago and I hadn't even, thought about it. But it started, during this process, things are coming up. And I'm like, going through that and thinking about the things that I wanted to say and didn't get to say, or the situations, the conversations I didn't get to have. And I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? This is a process, right? And so another thing I said, is this what it takes to heal? That was a question that I had. I'm asking Holy Spirit, is this what it takes to heal? Does it take for these things to come up and me address them, even if I'm not addressing them with the person that it happened with? The fact that I am addressing them, is this what it takes to heal? And then I said, why did I suddenly remember this situation? What happened? Why am I remembering this? Right? And then I said, one that I hadn't, this is a situation that I hadn't thought about in years. It's playing back as if it just happened on yesterday, like I said. And then I said, is God bringing it up so that I may deal with it? Is he bringing it up to me so that I may say, okay, let me take a look at this. Let me take a look at what that situation did in my life, in my heart. What did that situation do in my heart? You know what I mean? What did it cause me to start, feeling, or, did it change me in any kind of way? Did it change my talk? Did it change my attitude towards something or someone? So I said, is it if he's bringing it up for me to deal with it, how do I deal with it? You know what I mean? How do I address it just between him and I? Do I need to address the person? So I'm thinking all these things and just processing this and just asking Holy Spirit to guide me in, how to handle it. How to handle it, because obviously it's something in my heart. Obviously it's something that it was an unresolved issue. And then I said, some of the situations are unresolved, and I may never be able to speak to the person about it, but is he wanting me to just speak to him about it, right? So then I said, is he testing my endurance to deal with my past and really, truly heal? These are questions that I was just asking myself yesterday through that process. Like, okay, this is all coming up. This is what I'm feeling. So is he, testing my endurance? Is he testing me to see if I'm going to really complete this and go through this and, really deal with the situations, the issues of my heart? Is he testing me to say, am I going to deal with my heart matters? You know what I mean? Am I going to deal with it? Am I going to see it for what it is? Am I going to recognize it? And am I going to address it? Am I going to deal with it? Me, not the other person, not the other situation, the situation, the environment, whatever it was, not that, but me. Am I going to deal with my heart posture towards a thing, towards a situation, towards a conversation, towards a hurt, towards a something that happened? Am I going to deal with it? And I also wrote down, how do you heal? So I said, this is just me, my thoughts. I said, relive that moment and identify the feeling felt and speak to those words and acknowledge that they are there. In other words, what I'm saying is, for me, healing means to relive that moment. Right? Relive the moment that happened and identify the feelings felt in that moment. You know what I mean? Identify how you felt, because a lot of times when we are hurt or things have happened, we just dismiss our feelings because we're like, you know what, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna just, I'm not gonna think about it. And we go about our life trying to do that. And we don't talk about it, but it's still there. It's still there. It still weighs on us. It comes up at different points in our lives. We call it trigger points. Something can happen, or a word can be spoken, or somebody can do something that reminds us of that feeling that we had or that situation, and it can cause a reaction in us because we have not fully dealt with that when it happens. So we have to relive that moment, identify those feelings that we felt, and speak to it. Speak to those words that were said to us. Speak to that action that was done to us. You know what I mean? Speak to it. And when I say speak to it, I mean address it. Let it know this is how I felt about it. And it's not, you may not never get to say it to the person or whatever it is. You may not get to say it to that person, but that action, you can speak to that action. You can speak to that action and say, that hurt me. It hurt me. It broke me. You know what I mean? It caused me to feel this way. You can speak to it, right? You can have a conversation and you can speak to it and you can pray and you can ask Holy Spirit to help you to get it out, deal with it. Talk to God. Let God, I need help in this area. You know what I mean? I need help with this. So speak to it, identify it, speak to the words, speak to the action, and acknowledge that it is there, that it did happen and it is there. You know what I mean? And get it all out because you're holding it in your heart. And I had to realize that that's something that I had been holding in my heart, for years. And I was sitting and I was like, gosh, what, committed to the process. It was like, wow, this is just the thought of just sitting and just saying, okay, that happened 10 years ago. 10 years ago. And I hadn't even really thought about it, but it just started coming up and I began to realize and feel how I felt in that moment. It was just like, I promise you, I could tell you what the person had on. I can tell you what I had on 10 years ago. And it was like, wow. And I just began to speak to it and just to say that hurt me. I didn't like that at all. That hurt me. This is what was said. This is what was done. And I had to release it. I had to just get it out because I had never said anything about it. I had never spoken, told the person how I really felt about it because I was like, there's no need for me to say it because you're not going to listen anyway. You don't care. So I just held it. You know what I mean? 10 years ago that happened. And it was just like, I was just sitting there like amazed at, wow, how my memory was. Like I remembered the very moment. It was amazing to me. Like I really did not get over that. And so I thought about it. This last question that I had was, what steps have I taken to strengthen my mind and heart in the wait? So in the wait through this process, what have I done, right? And so I looked up the word waiting. Waiting says, one definition was delaying action, right? The other definition says allowing time to go by while staying in one place. Allowing time to go by while staying in one place. And I thought about that from two sides of it. I thought about it in the waiting of suppressing things, of things happen in the years that's going by. I still consider that waiting because I allowed myself to stay in that place of hurt for a long period of time because I suppressed it. I never, dealt with it. So I was in waiting. Right? Because like we discussed before, if it's in you, if it's in your heart, it's going to come out. Right? So I was in a waiting, holding all that hurt in waiting. And then I thought about it on the other side of waiting through the process, right? It's saying delaying action. Because sometimes we can't just respond and act on a thing without seeking God about it. Right? So that was my other wait. I was sitting here like, God, how do I deal with this? Would it matter if I took and called the person, here it is 10 years later, and say, do you remember 10 years ago when you had on a tan hoodie? You know what I mean? Do I handle it that way, or do I deal with it internally, or are you going to provide the opportunity for that to come back up and we address it at that time? I'm asking, the wait through the process. But it wouldn't, it doesn't do me any good to not be healed from this situation and to address it, and then it comes right back up and there's another offense. We dealt with offensiveness and defensiveness yet yesterday. So it's like, do I address it, or do I wait to address it, or how do I address? I'm waiting on that answer of how to go about addressing it. I dealt with it within myself, but do I have to deal with it with the person? Because all the time you don't have to deal with it with the person or with the situation. You don't have to do it that way. You have to be led by Holy Spirit to say how to do it. You know what I mean? Was it just for me to get myself together to be able to heal properly? You know what I mean? So that's the waiting in that. And so this is what this did for me. It just took me on that journey through that process and telling me, really checking me for the commitment in it. Because some things come up you don't want to deal with. But there's a commitment there to say, yes, let's address this, because this was brought up. God brought this up for a reason. You know what I mean? There's something there that he wants to address and deal with now. So let's deal with it. I'm committed to my process of healing because I want to be healed and I want to be whole. You know what I mean? I want freedom. I want autonomy. I want to be independent and free. I don't want to be bound by anything in my past. I don't want to be bound by my family lineage and, all of that stuff. I don't want it. I want to be free. You know what I mean? I want liberty in him. So I encourage you to stay committed. Stay committed to your process of healing, because it's happening. It is happening. God is moving. He is healing. He is speaking. He's doing it all. And we don't want to miss it. We do not want to miss it. So we don't want to stay stuck in one place. We want to move when he moves, right? So I'll chat with you all tomorrow. I'm going to continue on my process. I'm going to continue with my commitment, continue with learning and growing and developing. All right. Have a great day. Talk to you tomorrow.